Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to film and television, specifically film and TV in the age of streaming. As far back as the introduction of broadcast radio, both countries have taken their entertainment cues from the other.
They've also found several ways to set themselves apart, which is even true when it comes to the likes of Prime Video and Netflix. Of course, my subscribers will tell you that this is another example of how the internet differs in each country, something I proved in a video all about it.
And if you yourself are not subscribed, do that now! In the meantime, here's how British and American streaming services are very different. Before we get too far into the video, what is a streaming service is definitely a question that I'll get from Chainsaw Jim, so I'm going to explain it.
A streaming service is an online platform that allows users to watch or listen to content such as movies, TV shows, music, or podcasts over the internet.
And those aren't my words, that is a direct quote from Wikipedia, which is not a streaming service. And of course, just like anything that's enjoyed by humans, streaming services come with a cost. So why don't we compare each country's pricing options to see which country, if any, gives you better bang for your buck. Or quid.
In both the UK and the US, Netflix and Prime Video are the two most popular streaming services. But how much are you paying for either? When it comes to Netflix, British and American users now have three choices: enticingly affordable but with ads, not as affordable but without ads, or expensive with like extra According to Netflix's own website, the enticingly affordable but with ads plan comes in at £4.99 a month in the UK.
And Americans who pay $6.99 a month might be thinking, ooh, Lawrence, what is £4.99 in US dollars? That's easy, it's exactly $6.52 approximately. In other words, the enticingly affordable but with ads plan is about 50 cents cheaper in Britain. But what about Netflix's most popular option? They're not quite as affordable, but without ads plan.
Well, as of 2024, millions of Americans are shelling out an additional $8.50 to prevent their favorite shows from being interrupted by commercials. In other words, the plan cost $15.49. In the UK, this same plan only costs $10.99. Again, that's in pounds. In dollars, that's $14.36 a month, more than $1 cheaper than the US. And then there's the expensive but with extra plan, which permits 4 devices at a time instead of 2, and the ability to watch movies in Ultra HD instead of Full HD, which sound like the same thing but aren't. In the US, this plan costs $22.99.
Let's see if the UK can make it 3 out of 3. $23.52. That's mental. Well, you can't win them all, but as Meatloaf once said, I would do anything for love. That's the wrong quote. Either way, let's add Amazon Prime to our data set.
Basically, there are 2 options available to Brits and Americans. Number 1, give Jeff Bezos a monthly donation to get free shipping and have video streaming thrown in as part of the deal. Or pay him less to have Prime Video as a standalone service. Doing that last one will set Americans back $8.99 a month, whereas Brits pay around $7.83. The gap between UK and US costs is even more pronounced for Prime Ministers. For Prime members, I misread that. In the UK, this plan is £8.99 or $11.74, which compares favourably to America, where it's $14.99 a month. Now, Americans are given the illusion of a stronger deal if they pay for the plan at the annual price of $139. I mean, this brings down the monthly cost by $3.40, while the UK's annual plan only saves you $1. But at $139, the US annual plan is still $10 more expensive than the British one.
That said, you might be thinking, Lawrence, doesn't all of this just highlight a wider point? The prices of most things fluctuate from country to country. And you know what? You're right. For instance, the price of gas has been consistently cheaper in the US than in Britain, whereas the exact opposite is true of groceries. For an online business like mine, financial headaches are not an option.
Which is why you should check out today's sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one solution for businesses like mine, which is an absolute gift for somebody with my world-renowned attention to detail.
You see, my wife and I can finally keep track of each other's schedules because Odoo allows for transparency and easy viewing with their planning app,
which leaves me free to map out my upcoming projects.
And with Odoo's survey application, I can get your feedback to shape one of Lost in the Pond's upcoming videos about British versus American hospitals.
Furthermore, Odoo has an integrated CRM, which stands for Cardiac Rhythmic Management. That can't be right. Oh, Customer Relationship Management, not to mention accounting, sales, and inventory management.
And perhaps the best part is that everything I just mentioned can be found in one visually appealing menu.
Actually, that's not the best part. The best part is that your first application is free for life.
So click the link in the description to get started. Now, before we see which country has the better catalogues, I'd like to make one or two highly crucial observations about something really mundane: sign-up pages.
Given that sign-up pages serve as a greeting for potential customers, I wanted to see if these differed from one side of the pond to the other.
So, using my VPN, I headed to US Netflix on one computer and UK Netflix on another. What I found disturbed me.
At first glance, nothing looked out of the ordinary. If you saw my video on internet differences, you'd know that in the UK, cookie notices are the exact opposite of what Americans would jot down for Santa, and not as heartfelt. I wasn't even surprised that Americans get a language drop down and the UK doesn't, but that's probably because I'm English and not Welsh. And given my line of work, I was, dare I say it, moved by the use of words like films and programs instead of movies and shows. No, what caught my eye above all else was that US Netflix uses an Oxford comma and UK Netflix does not. An Oxford comma, or serial comma, is a comma used after the second to last item in a list of 3 or more items. I had to know if this was a stylistic choice or a mere oversight, so I called Netflix.
Well, some linguists call it a serial comma. I don't know if that... Hello?
Netflix clearly had bigger fish to fry, so I went online. Apparently, US style guides are more likely than British ones to recommend Oxford commas without exception. UK style guides, meanwhile, tend to favour them only when their absence causes confusion. So, for example, Arthur was laying next to his food, the cushions, and Lawrence's shoes. Actually, that sentence works either way.
Anyway, back to sign-up pages.
Amazon Prime UK retains the words movies and shows, presumably because they once heard me mention that British people are more than familiar with them. On the other hand, US Prime takes a slightly unorthodox approach to America's love of football by showcasing 3 players that aren't Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Weirdly, Americans don't get an option to sign in. I can see that being a problem in a minute.
Finally on this topic, because I'm so ultra passionate about sign-up pages, I thought I'd look at Disney Plus for good measure.
Once you get past the mothership of all cookie notices, you'll see that Disney Plus UK emphasizes a discount instead of pushing its other assets like the American version does. The reason for this is simple. Due to rights issues, both Max and Hulu are not available in the UK.
However, many HBO originals, like that one where Colin Farrell portrays Tony Soprano as an aquatic bird, are apparently on Sky. And that brings us on to this. Because it's also down to streaming rights, that each country's version of a platform occasionally offers different films and programs. A recent example of this includes a little-known show called The Office. Given that my channel compares British and American stuff, you might assume things are about to devolve into a which version was better debate. But for once, we're not going to do that. You see, Americans in particular might recall that in 2020, Netflix didn't renew the rights to the US Office, which is now exclusively tied to NBC's streaming service, Peacock. In the UK, this transition didn't take place, and for 3 reasons. Number 1, the US Office had been available to that point through UK Prime Video. Number 2, Peacock never really found its footing in the UK and was discontinued earlier this year. And number 3, the UK rights to the show were picked up by the very service that had lost them in the US just days earlier, Netflix. In fact, as with numerous international markets, it remains there to this day. Of course, The Office is one of many such examples. Films such as the UK's cult classic Cornetto trilogy are currently included in a Peacock subscription in the US, but split across Netflix and Prime in the UK. For reasons that ought to be obvious, I'm not going to sit here and list every one, but I do briefly want to go back in time to a few minutes ago when I said this. Why don't we compare each country's pricing options to see which country, if any, gives you better bang for your buck? What I forgot to mention back then is that this can't be determined just by cost. You also have to factor in the size of each country's video libraries. Given America's status as arguably the TV and film capital of the world, you might think that it comes out on top. But a glance at recent figures indicates that, like The Wizard of Oz, it's not all black and white. You see, as of last summer anyway, US Netflix's tally of 6,300 titles is about 7% less voluminous than UK Netflix's 6,800. On the other hand, Prime Video, which is home to live sports, has around 29,000 titles in the US and 16,000 in the UK. And no, I haven't counted them all to test the accuracy of what sound like made-up numbers. And given the variety of titles, it is inevitable that at some point the 2 countries will display different names for the exact same film. Take, for example, the Disney animated film Zootopia, marketed by UK Disney as Zootropolis. It was renamed in much of Europe in part because of a trademark dispute brought forth by Gifskud Zoo in Denmark, who had already registered the name. Furthermore, in Germany, it was renamed Zoomania because Zootropolis was already the name of an existing work of literature in Germany. As it turns out, the British might not be quite at peace with this change, because according to eyewitnesses, otherwise known as people on threads, the American title is used to a notable degree by Brits themselves. Probably because the pun just works better. Speaking of puns, come and connect with me on this video about British and American internet differences. Or click on my enormously stupid face to subscribe. Or leave a comment above, which I've just realised is the YouTube search bar. Leave a comment below. And pay your respects to Cyberdyne Systems Model 101 by doing this. Goodbye.